Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 83, 84. One of those
84, yeah.
84 of the Titanforge podcast. I am Dranos, joined by Tettles and Trell. Welcome.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Yo, what's up?
Yo. As Tettles was mentioning, daylight savings is going to be upon us soon, so prepare to set your clocks forward. In that vein, actually, we have some other scheduling news. So we're going to switch back to our Saturday schedule. That graphic that I made will no longer be necessary, and we'll switch back to the old graphic at the start of the show with the times going back to
European-friendly times?
Yeah, noon Pacific. I don't know if it'll be a 9 or 8 hour difference. I think the difference in times changes for a couple weeks between EU and NA when daylight savings are happening.
It's normally like 1900 CET.
Okay, but it might be like 1800
CET is what it's supposed to be, but
it might be either 18 or 20.
Because European daylight savings is normally like a month off of US, right?
In my life, I
Daylight
have
savings
never
is so fucking scuffed.
I have never been able to have a good instinct for like what the implications of daylight savings at any given of the transitions are. So just be ready. Block out an extra 2 hours and an extra hour on both sides for Titanforge podcast, and you'll be fine. And then, so that'll be in 10 days that we'll be back to the Saturday schedule. Because of course, the last MDI Cup of the season is this weekend, which Tettles and I will be casting. It should be pretty fun. It'll be on the new patch, which is our main topic today, patch 9.0.5. We're going to talk about the shifts in the metagame as a result of the buffs and nerfs to the different specs. And we'll talk about the patch features of patch 9.0.5. Those will be our main topics. Before we get there, though, how's everybody's week been? Trell, how have things been going for you?
Oh, not bad. Just been raiding a little bit. I did some keys last week. It was a lot of fun. I was out of town for a few days, so I didn't get to do a bunch, but tanked a few 22s on brew.
Ooh, that's big IO.
That is large IO. Which keys? Do you have any particularly fun keys, dungeons that you like the most?
I think it's fun to do all the stuff in Necrotic Wake. Like once you have a really good route figured out as a tank for Necrotic Wake, it feels great to execute because everything just melts. Like every single pack has something to take care of it. Every single pride, except maybe the last pride, and it's just a good time because you can almost feel like you can run the dungeon like you used to be able to in Legion.
There's definitely something about that. Did you use the shield last week for the shield versus bursting?
I thought about that. I never got around to having a
Yeah.
good plan for it. I think that is a good idea, though. I'll want to implement that at some point.
Yeah, I've been advocating doing that, not like as a plan for surviving big bursting, but just like fire it off because you're never going to get any more value out of the shield.
Who would even be holding it? I guess it doesn't really fucking matter anymore. The rogue, rogue got changed to where
you can use it out of combat, right?
Yeah, I mean you can use that out of combat, but notably like the rogue's master assassin, you would just put it on like some DPS that's not like holding weapons. But now basically all the DPS can really hold weapons since master assassin doesn't work. Do we know if they fixed Rune of Power working with weapons or not?
I don't think
I don't know.
they did. I'm not
So
100% sure.
Talking about the all the weapons in Necrotic Wake were affected by the rogue legendary master assassin, which made them have 100% crit chance as soon as they exited stealth for like 4 globals. So all the weapons would do massive damage from a rogue, and so the same thing happens from Rune of Power, increasing it by what, like 30% damage? Is that what Rune does?
Something. Like
it's
that.
30%. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they fixed that though.
My suspicion is no, because they changed Master Assassin rather than changing the weapons. And so my suspicion is that they're still like, yeah, where it's going to be one of those things where we just go down the line to the next most broken thing to use with each weapon until we get...
It's 40%.
40%, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure though. It's definitely something they could have done. If it was,
Honestly,
it was a change I missed.
They should just delete Rune of Power. Mages shouldn't have it, and I think that would be an ample nerf.
It was a little bit weird to see Mage getting a buff, Fire Mage getting a buff coming into this.
We're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but like, what the fuck?
That one is
How did it get buffed?
a little left field for me for sure. But yeah, so that'll be our main topic this week. We're going to talk about the shifts in the metagame and the buffs and nerfs later. We're going to start off though with just general patch 9.0.5 stuff, which I think the first thing to really discuss is going to be Valor points, which we've learned some more specifics because the implementation was a little bit opaque until it actually went on the live servers. A few notable things are you get like 35 or 50 Valor from each calling you do. It depends on which calling it is. Like the Storm the Maw one gives more Valor than the, do 3 world quests in Bastion one. And then you get 135 from any dungeon at any key level. Above, obviously, it needs to be a key, so not a mythic 0.
My God, dude.
Is a little bit it strikes me as a little. So I'm not necessarily opposed with the +2s giving 135. Like, I think that number could be totally fine, but I think maybe they should be more for higher.
I think it's so fried that the best source of Valor is actually just spamming like +2 hauls and +2 mists.
Yeah,
that seems so scuffed.
Like Squishy identified, a friend of the podcast, in the Wowhead post about it. The reminiscing back to Mauved Souls +2 farming is very reminiscent to that, to be just blasting those, especially because the Keystone Master achievement is account wide, right? So you can upgrade to 220 if you have a 220 main, or a main character that's done Keystone Master. Then your alts can just spam +2s, and it's a lot of +2s, but you can get the items and the Valor to upgrade all the way to 220 just from doing that, which I don't think it's really efficient. Like, I think you should at least do a couple of the 14s, because it'll save you a lot of Valor to get the item dropping at 210 or 207 rather than dropping below that. It will save you a lot of Valor, and Valor is not an unlimited resource, but it's a resource you have quite a bit of. It depends a little bit on what you're trying to upgrade. So there's the different upgrade costs for different items, and you have like 5 different steps to upgrade up to the top level. So, and you can only hold 5,750 Valor, right? Or 5,750 Valor this week, and that'll go up by a pretty slow amount. But so if you're trying to do multiple pieces, it does actually behoove you to get the base item at 207 or higher. There's not a difference in the Valor it'll cost if it's 207 versus 210. But if you drop it below 207, you'll have to do another step. And of course, if you drop it down at 184 or whatever, you're going to have to do several more steps.
I mean, this is great for alts as it is current implementation. I don't think it's... Okay, so the pros of this, very good for alts. Really easy to like get Keystone Masters on the main and then like slam your alts to be able to get like great gear. I think that's like the definite pros of this. The cons is that I don't think as a system by itself, it's like really main conducive. I don't think it's like the best system for just like if you're only maintaining one character. Sure, there are some good things. Like there are really good trinkets that you can get at like 220 item level, potentially like rings and necklaces and stuff like that. But more often than not, the best case scenario is item level. And like 6 item level, sure, it doesn't sound like a lot because we're used to dealing with numbers in like the 5s and 10s for the past like few expansions, but basically 6 item levels is the equivalent of like 10 item levels in previous expansions. And it definitely is a noticeable power difference between that.
Yeah, especially because they've been working to make most specs pretty main stat dependent and pretty disinterested in dropping item levels for better stat combinations. So yeah, I think your diagnosis is correct that especially at this point in time, like mythic rating mains have little to gain from the Valor point system for the most part, with the exception of Inscrutable Quantum Device or Blood Spattered Scale or that trinket out of Spires or the trinket out of Theater, right? Like those sort of items at 220 are absolutely worth considering for a lot of classes.
Things like Halls of Atonement Ring also is like really good because it's like so mastery heavy.
Right. And there's no primary stat on rings, so those are the slots where specs are most willing to drop item levels if they have a disparity between how good secondaries are for them. But yeah, I mean, I think this will probably do some good for like if the system had been in place at patch day, right? Like and when it will be in place for next patch day, I think it will mean that like most progression characters will have an item or two of Mythic Plus Valor upgraded item on them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like I think this would have represented for Hall of Fame guilds probably 2 or 3 220s in slot. And the thing is, in a way like PvP, it is very targetable, right? You get to decide what you're going to spend your Valor on. You do have to get the item to drop, but for a main character, that's not a concern, right? For a main character, you'll just do the dungeon until you like. Obviously, it's a pain, but it is not it's not like a barrier to you getting that item that you need. Right?
I think that's I think that's coming from an opinion of somebody who would end up running like funnel groups too, though. Like we all three of us would run funnel groups meaning that we would have people like prioritizing us to trade us shit that we need. Like, and it's like, oh, I need this really bad. I don't care if this is your healer like dream to have this IQD. You need to give this to me right now. I need it.
Maybe. I mean, I don't. I like. I mean, I play tank, so the first couple weeks of the patch, I just get
You just trade everything anyways.
Yeah, trade all the all the stuff as well. But I think that it's like for a mythic rating main, I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that, especially by the time you get to the end boss, you'll look at your worst slot and you'll upgrade that with Valor points to. Like, my character had a couple of M plus 203 or 207s that would have just been 220s in those slots, and that would have been, a sizable upgrade for progression this tier.
Yeah.
Especially if the PvP cap resets, which I assume it will, right? Like, you get one PvP item and then you just like find your other worst slot and fill that with Valor.
Right.
For a few weeks at least.
So yeah, certainly the one problem with this system from my perspective is that, PvP came in at a really high level at the start of the expansion, and then during this patch they've buffed both raid gear and PV and Mythic Plus gear, right? And I think those were good because I think there was such a big disparity with PvP. But the problem I foresee is that start of patch, that player who can do all three forms of content and who does grind all three forms of content is going to be gearing up 3 times as fast as somebody who does just one. And I think they should gear up faster
definitely.
and gear up better. Like, I think that's reasonable, but I think that there should be systems in place to prevent it from being 3 times, right? I think there should be diminishing returns for each form of content you do beyond the first, such that it's not like a huge advantage, right? I think that there are advantages that are big enough to be very significant that all the high-end players will chase that will be less punishing for the one form of content only players.
Yeah. We'll see how it ends up shaking up. I'm sure that there will be like a lot of different problems. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the patch, we speculated that this wasn't going to. I at least speculated this wasn't going to be a huge issue of like, oh, I thought this was just like gear hangover. No, this system actually just sucks ass with how the gearing works. And then you look to the future and you're like, how the hell am I going to get a 4-set bonus ever?
Well, there's no 2 sets are not on the horizon, right? For 9-1, it's if those are coming, it would be 9-2 now at the earliest. My suspicion is that's going to be one of the things that just kind of goes off into the distance and is always at some point in the future. But maybe I could be wrong about that. I don't know. I mean, I think the Valor points represents like a serious amount of work that they've put in to try and address the problems that people were having with the system as it was. So I think that definitely deserves a lot of credit. And I mean, nitpicks aside, I think that the system is going to be very good for a large amount of players that we're feeling extremely underwhelmed with the incentive to run Mythic Plus this expansion.
I think basically if you don't Mythic Raid too, like this is like pretty good. Yeah,
if you don't have access to those 226s from raid and PvP, the gear is incredible out of this. This is very good. And even if you do, I mean, this is still targetable. Not targetable, but if you're like a full-time M plus player, you'll have like leech items that you can upgrade as well.
I'm looking forward to being able to target leech items. Like, what do you think the odds of getting a leech blood spatter scale from the other side is?
You probably have to run like 500 or 1,000 other sides before you're expecting to see one. I'm not sure. Pretty large number.
Oh, pain! Everything is just pain.
So yeah, that'll be fun. Can't wait to do that next year for just the same item but 30 item levels higher.
Okay, a noticeable problem about this, and I mean it's a problem with the Mythic Plus system in general, is that loot gets fucking stale. Like Mythic Plus loot is awful, man. Like it, especially once. Okay, right now it's like not that bad, but whenever I have to run double on use for the fucking 3rd consecutive patch in a row or something like that, because it's just not bad, because you can still get Imperial Ordnance and IQD, you're just like, oh, I fucking hate this. This is awful.
Yeah, the gear changing from patch to patch was a big feature up until BFA, right? Where like you would have just very different items because all your items were, you'd have all your armor was tier set armor and your trinkets were raid trinkets or whatever from the tier. And now it's like, okay, PvP gear and M plus gear, these are the same items but just bumped up by 30 item levels to 26 each patch.
Yeah, I mean Legion at least had a bunch of like random shit that, okay, there was obviously like there was a few, but stupid stuff.
Legion had tier sets still.
Memento of Angrboda is definitely something that was like a thing. The Chorus Stars Arcway like 2 set. That
That was good for Boomkin, so it wasn't that popular outside of like the non-leather ones weren't that popular.
That was fucking annoying to farm, I must say. Maybe that was just a Mugen specific thing, but like that was also fucking annoying. But like at the same time, yeah, like you said, there's tier bonuses. More often than not, the trinkets from dungeons kind of sucked. There was like a couple of like exceptions, like the Memento of Anger, but that one was like really good, and then basically all the other trinkets were like,
well, because they made
great
great raid trinkets as well back then, and they haven't done that as much starting in BFA. Like the good raid trinkets have been there's been like one or two. It's not been like most of them are good.
So like Draught of Souls.
Yeah, Draught of Souls is but even just like the random other ones where there were like stat sticks as well from raid. There was Convergence of Fates from the boss before Draught of Souls. That was extremely popular. And powerful.
Gul'dan and Elisand, yeah, and then Whispers in the Dark was also from Gul'dan.
That tier just had so many good trinkets. Holy crap!
Well, then the tier after that, Tomb of Sargeras, they had like 6 trinkets too. They had the owl trinket from Sisters of the Moon,
and the blades, and the what was it?
The tank CDR trinket.
Tank trinket, the reduce your major CD. Wait a minute. There's been like 4 Convergence of Fate trinkets in the last 2 expansions.
Yeah. And then if you think about like Vision of Perfection sort of being in that space as well.
Yeah, Vision, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, anyways, dude, it's so weird to me that like trinkets like have about the same like slot value in terms of like damage gain as like bracers and hands and shit. And I've never really understood that. Why isn't it the same like slot value as at least like the chest, the helmet, potentially even like the weapon? Like why isn't it just fucking enormous gain per trinket? Maybe they just don't want to see swings like that, like BIS trinkets versus not. But I feel like that's kind of like, I feel like trinkets are supposed to be kind of cool.
Yeah,
they feel lackluster as fuck.
A lot of problems in like WAD and MOP balancing were like random trinkets that were just wild beyond belief, right?
Even in Legion, dude, you had you had like weapon auras and like random class auras scaling with trinkets, like Fire Mage, like just increased the fire damage of PPD from Garathi Worldbreaker, so they wore that for forever.
Both warrior specs on Holy DKs scaled Draught of Souls as well with Mastery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that, but I do understand why they got rid of it.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of sick. Personally, but...
I'm not advocating for like return to the Legion level of trinkets. I just think like I think the raid trinket should be better than the dungeon trinkets, so that we get some trinket variety from patch to patch.
I agree with that. Dungeon trinkets should be like something you have if you have it at like
I think the dungeon ones could
20
be,
item levels higher.
Like or you make those the generic, stat. Well, the problem, I mean, they kind of have done that, right? Like there's just the haste one from Spires, and like the problem is that it's so hard to balance non-generic stats that usually they just undershoot those ones, and the generic stats are just the best option for a lot of specs. So I don't know, it's tough.
What are these fucking stat sticks only from dungeons anyways?
What do you guys think about the instructor's bell that you wear like 80 eye levels lower than current eye levels?
I still wear that shit. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why 184 trinket leaving me at 225 eye level, even though my max is like 228.
You haven't gotten a nice one out of your mission table or callings or anything yet?
Yeah, dude. Let me just continue to reroll my mission table and do all of my fucking Bastion callings for 8 more months, and then maybe I'll have one finally.
Well, yeah,
it's very sick.
It's like the dungeon trinkets where you get the BIS one right before the next patch comes out, and then just it's now again 26 item levels below.
Do you remember that bullshit Devil Soul Shock Baton?
Yes.
This is like a fucking ancient throwback. That trinket was bullshit, and I have like fucking PTSD from
Suramar.
Trying to farm that bullshit ass trinket too. And then I have this goddamn bell that I'm farming in current Shadowlands.
That Shock Baton, and it was like 850 as a World Quest reward, and that was good for a lot of specs, but it could Titanforge. So every time it was up, you had to go and do that just in case you could Titanforge that thing up to, because if you got that thing up to like 875 or whatever, you're just like,
oh, that thing was your top damage. It was bullshit. It was like fucking 8% of your damage or something. It was like Devil Sore Lash. You're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, you remember Arcana Crystal as well, that expansion from Wither Gym?
Oh my god.
Every single character is so good.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And then they added the relinquished trinket system, and you were just rolling those, trying to get Arcana Crystals and Stat 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
The trinket system's so bad, but sometimes you have I mean, honestly, oh god, it was so bad whenever that was current, but looking back on it, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is there's always going to be problems with the system, but they're laying the track in front of them as the train's going, so it's always going to be bumpy ride.
Sure. Now we can look back at things like farming blood of the enemy and be like, oh, I remember that time we wasted 4 weeks of our lives farming blood of the enemy. It's so funny.
Hey, you remember that one time that Dratos, this dumbass, literally spent a full week farming blood of the enemy on 8
Dude, it was
characters?
comp stomp. It was comp stomp. It was the only way to get that from PvE content. That was
One
200.
time I was like, never again.
210,000 honor across the account farmed up. Whew. Yes.
So good. The cops stop like fucking week-long stream. Dratos streaming 12 hours a day of just cop stop. I would come to his chat, yo, have you stood up in the past few hours? He goes, no, I haven't stood up in 8 hours, man. I've just been grinding cop stop. And I'm like, holy shit. He would end his stream, and it's like 9 a.m. Central, and it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I remember like getting to work, like opening Twitch on my other screen and seeing Dranos still farming honor.
Dude, you know, I had to get the blood of the enemy, though. I didn't want to play characters that didn't have that, right? It would be like having a character that just, like, could only play one Covenant at a time if you couldn't have all your essences, which coincidentally is the design of this expansion, and I'm not happy about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the rage changes as well. Because we did have some balancing to raids worth mentioning. Council of Blood has been gutted, just completely demolished here, with basically the last. If Niklaus is last, the fight is a lot less. Which was the limit strat. That's the strat that many guilds do. It's now a lot safer to kite the Veteran Stone Guard, a lot easier to kill it, a lot easier to survive it, whether you're kiting it or tanking it. Basically, whatever your strategy was before, it's much more likely to work there. And they also reduced
that's nice.
Dancing Fever damage. They reduced the Dancing Fools if you're going to do Stavros last. And then they reduced the damage of Soul Spikes, which I don't know what that is. I assume that's some weird order.
some weird shit that I love that we just don't know what half of the abilities
it's a fight where you actually don't learn some of the mechanics because you just never do the boss in that order, right? Like there's
Frida last is actually I don't know if did you ever see that YouTube video of that one guild that did Frida last?
It's void zones on the floor, right? That you have to keep running away from, right?
Yes. Then they like filled up their whole entire room. That was their prog kill too, by the way. I was like, what is this?
Also,
it was a weird one.
Also, we have the mythic Crossrealm Mythic Castlanathria is now available, starting for all players, thanks to the Alliance Hall of Fame filling up. Which, there's a long story about the the amount of that was sold. Like sold RMT done in the Chinese region, and then there were some Wowhead posts about it. Where go ahead. You want to tell the story, Tuttles?
I was going to say, I looked this up for context, and then you can finish this off. I looked this up for context. In one singular guild, I went and scrolled through their fucking characters on their sheet to see how many unique characters had killed Sire Denathrius on Mythic, and these motherfuckers had 900 characters on their logs. I had to like throw it in an Excel sheet to see how many unique cells it was going to populate. They had 900 unique characters on their logs, meaning that they piloted so many fucking people to get Sire Denathrius Mythic kills.
Yeah, that's like 50 pilots or something, at least, even if there's generous raid rostering and alts and stuff.
I mean, they're probably doing some sales, right? Like some right. Not just the pilots, but they're probably doing some sales. So that's probably some of that.
Like
probably
some
people's alts. Yeah, they're probably some people's alts. They may be doing multiple runs a week, so that's also like a thing that may be happening.
So for those
900 is so fucking many.
For those out of the loop, basically what happened with the bottom 25 slots of the Alliance Hall of Fame. It's not 100% confirmed, but the strong suspicion, and there's quite a bit of evidence pointing to it, is that many of the runs on the bottom of the list here are the same players just piloting the accounts of the people that purchased Hall of Fame for their guild or for their characters, and so this got publicized and posted around, and there was some uproar about it, which then led to this incredible story of NetEase, which is the company that runs WoW in China, interviewing players for suspected RMT. And so they called them up and quizzed them on the mechanics of Mythic Sire Denathrius, right? So they called
I
them
actually
up.
saw a funny meme about that, and it was like an intimidating picture and it said name every mechanic, and I was like, oh crap, I don't even know if I could name every mechanic.
Oh, you're a Mythic Raider? Name every mechanic. Yeah.
Yeah, Massacre and Ravage. I don't know. Others.
Good luck to those people that got piloted.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, there's at least one player in my guild that you could give this interview to who played he played for us on the fight that could not answer any of these questions.
Oh,
In fact, during
think...
the boss fight, I don't think he would have been able to tell you anything about what was going on. Just completely
what's
clueless.
going on?
Yeah,
I think all of our raiders could tell you what's going on. I don't know if they named the fucking abilities.
Every single week, he's like, "Did Massacre get faster?"
Does he die every week?
And then like after like 5 pulls of the new cultist animation, he was like, "Did they change how this mechanic looks?"
Not immediately. Whenever you saw it, you're like, "Oh, what the fuck? They changed this." It was 5 pulls in, huh?
So thank goodness there hasn't been an inquisition on us there, because they called up that guy, our whole guild's getting banned.
What do you think about them interviewing people like that to try to see if they're piloting?
There's no way this is like a sustainable actual policy for how you deal with suspected RMT, right? Like, that's just so... Like, I could see it maybe just being a one-off thing in this one case, but it's not like this can actually be the way that you handle RMT, right? Because like if you do, then just the RMT companies will just give all the players like a little list of what the answers to the questions are, right, and how the fight works.
Well, I heard that they may be like looking to arrest these fucking people too.
Okay. I have no idea.
That was also thrown around. I don't know the legitimacy of that such like claims, but I did read that somewhere. Obviously, that's like unsubstantiated.
Everything we're getting is extremely secondhand here. The Wowhead article suggests that the 30-day ban was from a different suspension, and the punitive actions in this case are ranging from deleting the achievement up to 7-day suspension. So pretty light touch, although deleting the achievement, of course, invalidates the purpose of what you've done there. So I guess that accomplishes a lot of deterrence if people expect that's going to happen. I don't know.
I mean, I think the Chinese community is also pretty pissed about this level of piloting. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the bigger problem is that it locks out a lot of Hall of Fame spots for the players in the rest of the world, right? And it even happened on Horde, too. I think the very last week before Hall of Fame filled up, like the night before, there was like 8 or 9 Chinese kills. I'm pretty sure most of them are suspected as sales and piloting, so it's pretty scary for a lot of guilds out
there. It's whenever you see the kill times as well, where there's like 3 guilds that kill the boss within like an hour of each other. That's definitely the kind of thing that leads to suspicion. But then I think the most damning evidence is just the Warcraft logs that have like 5 Mythic Sire kills with different sets of characters logged to the same log.
How would you even do that? Like, would you just have like one person from your guild like transfer over who has like the skip open, so you don't have to fucking reclear the whole instance? Like,
maybe you get them to clear up to 9 of 10 or something, or 8 of 10, or maybe you like get the lockout up there at a previous time.
Why would you buy a pilot at that point? Why would you buy somebody? That's so weird.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's guilds that are like panicking because the Hall of Fame is about to close, and they want to get in. Because like Trell said, there was potentially some of this done right at the end of the Horde Hall of Fame closing, and then like a month and a half later, the Alliance Hall of Fame gets closed, and that's when it happens there as well. I don't know. I mean,
I'm not sure.
On the other hand, it's nice that the Crossrealm Mythic is open.
Yeah, I guess. Fuck. Guess that's.
But I agree. I empathize very much with any guilds that missed out on a title that would have earned it with the kill time they had if it weren't for RMT sales above. There was also a lot when this came out. There's a lot of discussion about how this happens more than you think in other regions at higher levels as well. I haven't heard of any of this in to this level in NA of like full on piloting a 20-person roster.
I know it used to happen on a smaller scale years ago, but I don't think I've heard of anything in the last few years.
definitely used to.
Right. So,
I don't know if I want to throw like guild names around, but there are definitely a couple notable guild. I guess the guild's dead now. Wildcard Gaming was notable for piloting a bunch of fucking.
Yeah, true.
Guild's been dead for a while at this point, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Wildcard Gaming piloted so many fucking guilds for a long time, but
and a lot of guilds, like any guild that is around today, but that existed pre like Nighthold, probably was involved in this kind of stuff. That was the Nighthold was like when the kind of the hammer came down from Blizzard in NA and EU that this was, you know, that you couldn't do this kind of RMT stuff.
Fuck, what is there? There is that one guild that's is it Unwealthy Homeless Men? God, there's one European guild that's known for like heavy like piloting too.
I struggle. I don't want to like, you know, just list guild names without any evidence or anything, especially because like I think that many guilds were, you know, back when it was basically allowed, it was de facto allowed by Blizzard, were involved in this kind of stuff, because, you know, you make a living if you can make a living from playing the game, right? That's
Oh yeah, no, I don't ever blame anybody for fucking piloting characters. I mean, dude, if you commit a large portion of your time and your life to it, and like,
well, like, I mean, it was understandable when it was basically allowed, right? Now that it's not allowed, obviously Blizzard's going to ban it, and, you know, you shouldn't do it because you shouldn't get your stuff banned. But back when it was basically the law of the land, you know, I don't have a. I mean, I do hate game when the game like gets devalued by the existence of RMT and the prevalence of it, but I find it hard to make an ethical argument against RMT in a game with basically company sanctioned RMT with the WoW token, right? Like,
yeah,
where you can just,
I would agree. Yeah,
you pay, you whip out your credit card, buy 40 WoW tokens, and buy 4 BOEs at the start of the tier, and that is an incredible power spike that is effectively pay to win. So in game, I have a particular problem with RMT in games where it introduces pay to win into an otherwise impossible to pay to win game, but WoW isn't that. So I don't have a special ethical problem with it, but obviously I would advise people not to do it because you don't want to get banned. And the likelihood is overwhelming, especially if you are an NA or EU, that you would get banned, especially for this kind of stuff. Usually, almost every RMT situation that I've heard about, even the people that think they're getting away with it, within 6 months they'll
ban your whole fucking guild too.
Yeah, dude, the whole thing collapses.
They'll ban your whole fucking guild. They'll ban Gallywix. They banned fucking Gallywix. Like,
yeah, which, you know, that the boosting communities are especially like a natural hotbed for this. It's just so like the way that the boosting communities work, some percentage of the transactions is going to administration, right? And so if your boosting community is successful, you suddenly are just having these admins and advertisers or whatever that are getting millions and millions of gold every week. And so you put those people in a position where, okay, I could sell this gold and make $1,000 a month from this community or whatever. Like that deal is tempting for almost anybody, especially depending on where you live in the world. If you live in a part of the world where that goes an even longer way than it does in like the US, it's a very natural thing to happen, and it is tough to avoid the incentives pointing towards that, but it almost always ends up with the account getting banned. So, don't do it.
Don't RMT.
Don't get your account banned. That's not the way to go. But I would say, moral high ground against it is not something that I'm a fan of either.
Have you guys ever RMT'd?
No.
No.
I have. What the fuck? It is just me then. Shit.
I don't think so.
But I think it was a long time ago, right, Tuttles?
Like fucking Legion, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Forever ago.
I don't know. Like there's some levels of stuff that,
on stream.
There's some levels of stuff that's like technically right. Like what if your friend's like, hey, I'll give you 50,000, or can you buy Call of Duty for me with WoW token or Battle.net balance? Like gift it to me and I'll pay you in gold or whatever. There's like all those sorts of like gray area, I guess, that can be technically against the TOS, but I don't think that's like RMT. I don't know.
You're right. I wasn't boosting them. I was coaching them.
Oh, of course.
I was coaching them through Kill Jaden and Gul'dan.
I see. just 19 people helping somebody learn the fight. Providing education. That's
dude. It was sick. It was actually really lucrative at the time.
That's the thing. Yeah, it was extremely lucrative back then. But then a lot of top guilds got banned for it, and all the others that didn't were like, "Oh, this is not anymore."
the whole entire guild, we got like $2,000 for a Gul'dan sale.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck? You're just like, I guess. It's like $100 cuts for all of us. I was like, what the fuck is happening, man?
Yeah, it's not bad for sure.
Yeah, it's not something that really exists anymore though in this region because
I would not do it anymore.
Well, and the thing is, like you could probably do it once, but then you're getting your whole guild's accounts banned, right? And so it's like instead of getting this, being able to print $100 per week off of it or whatever, you're in a situation where just from a purely self-interested perspective, you're now looking at, okay, now I need to make a new account, and that's like the amount of effort that's involved in that is way not worth it anymore. So the incentives are no longer there to create that kind of play. But it's clear that in regions where they don't enforce that, or where the enforcement is less strict, there are still incentives for big time, more blatant RMT. So
yeah, happens.
It is always something to keep an eye out on, and I'm definitely empathetic as well for given that it is a global Hall of Fame. I think that there should be definitely some global enforcement of standards so that it's not unfair between regions about who can do what to get in the Hall of Fame.
Is that technically
That's what I would
doable?
like to see too.
I'm not sure. But, I mean, if it's not, then there shouldn't be a global Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
That's a good way to wrap that up too.
All right. Let's move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week is that you can buy marks of honor for honor now, which this exchange rate is not particularly compelling, but if you've used all the, if you have a bunch of extra honor, and especially if you're near honor cap and especially if you want to actively delete your honor, which is sometimes important because if you're near honor cap, you can't get credit towards that like earn 1,500 honor from rated battlegrounds quest that you want to do for conquest. You can now buy marks of honor. So 5 marks of honor for 2,000 honor is now available from Purveyor Zokul in Oribos. So this is the one that sells the PvP, items, the aspirants stuff, and the legendary powers. And so you have some extra honor, buy this stuff, and get some extra marks of honor. Maybe buy some cool transmog for yourself. I don't know. Do whatever you like with it. Buying transmog is the only thing you can do. So enjoy that.
Fog.
All right,
it's better than being capped on honor and be like, what the fuck do I spend this on?
Yeah. Trell, what is your tip of the week?
Mine has to do with dungeons, as usual. Avalanche potions from Legion are actually really useful this X-Pack again. There's 2 dungeons in particular, Spires and the other side. And Spires, after the last boss, if you want to skip the 100% Pride and you're not a class with a slow fall or something to break your fall damage, you can just Avalanche potion all the way back down and finish off the Usurpers to get count. And in the other side, you can actually use an Avalanche potion on the Dealer's Ironic boss. And you can, I think, immune like 3 or 4 jumps in the air in a row, depending on the mechanics you get. Because Avalanche potion lasts a minute and it'll keep you slow fall the entire time, basically. So if you're a class like Monk, where you can only transcend every other, then it'll save you like a good 8 or 9k fall damage every other jump in the air mechanic, which is actually really important on higher level Mythic Plus keys.
Wait, the elixir doesn't go like it stays active for multiple of those falls in a row? That's so weird.
Yeah.
I thought it went away when you landed with it, but
I thought it was supposed to as well. That's
maybe they broke that at some point because I thought it behaved like that. Maybe I've just never tried to fall twice with it in 1 minute though. I remember using these things on Fallen Avatar. We had Avalanche Pot on our way down.
That was the big one.
Yeah, that was.
It's kind of cool to like mass Avalanche Pot as a raid group. You're all just like a bunch of flaming balls of rock.
It turns these meteors. It's actually so cool. This is a great elixir. Surprising to me that it's not, that it works in Shadowlands as well, given that they made most old alchemy and stuff not work this expansion. So, it was an oversight, but it's cool. There's also been the cool engineering updates as well, right? The taunt belt tinker from Cataclysm that people have been using a little bit as well. In addition to like the BFA shield belt and the BFA knock belt, there's this belt from Kata that is it makes like a target dummy that taunts for a couple seconds, basically like a little tree.
Yeah, it's called the Cardboard Assassin. Tanks are so squishy that a tiny little trinket you put on the ground that taunts for like 1 second and then dies is more tanky than our tanks. That's what we've resorted to.
It's a little weird for sure, but it's there. All right, Tettles, has for us a clip of the week from
Dude,
friend of the show, Yummy TV.
this
Growl.
clip is so good.
So what's going on here? This is
They're
24
fighting
Halls of
Halkias.
Atonement. Okay.
Yeah.
Dodges a swirly. Gets knocked up by a volcano. Oh no. Wait, is there more?
No, that's it.
Okay. Dude, whenever there's like a clip where somebody clicks onk and there's still like more than 5 seconds left in the clip, I'm always expecting there's gonna be another hammer to fall here. But yeah, so the beautiful volcano into goblin jump into crushing slam. Always something to watch out for. Was this an intentional volcano? Did he take this volcano as a movement volcano?
No, there's no way that was intentional.
Do you think? Okay, well, maybe, because it gets you to the altitude for your goblin jump. Maybe that's actually a strat.
Yeah, then he knew that he was going to need to onk after. He was just saving it.
He did stop right on the volcano. Maybe he was trying to go for something cool.
Yeah, don't you love the rage onk?
Onk is yeah. My favorite is the onk and then immediately die again. Just press onk in like a void zone and just die instantly again.
Yeah, those crack me up.
Or like onk right when raid wide damage is coming out and down right again. I see that stuff all the time and it never fails to make me happy. Yeah, that's a good clip though from Yummy TV, who did some really high keys last week with Tomobor on Guardian, as they. I guess people are no strangers to the bear now. It's been a couple seasons of the bear being near the top of the ladder, but I think this is a good patch for it. I think the bear's looking pretty strong, especially as we move into our shifts in the meta section, because there have been some changes to tuning, to different tank specs as well. Notably, Vengeance got some nerfing that I don't think. So first of all,
what actually changed?
So Vengeance lost damage on their Covenant abilities, except for the Necrolord one, which was reworked entirely. But the other 3 Covenant abilities all got 10% damage taken off of their Vengeance versions. And then Vengeance also lost damage on their Kyrian Conduit. And they got some defense reworked in that their Fiery Brand Conduit got reworked into reducing the cooldown of Fell Devastation rather than Fiery Brand. That change in particular is more like a buff than a nerf, in my opinion, because Firebrand uptime was already is still extremely high. You have a cooldown reduction effect on it through your legendary.
Yeah.
So its uptime is going from 70 or 80% down to maybe 60 or something. But Fell Devastation and giving you meta, that the cooldown on that has gone from a minute down to 48 seconds, and that is actually a massive.
I think that's actually so uptime. Good.
Yeah.
Once you get into the high key range, a lot of times trash pulls are about 45 seconds long, and that's perfect for Fell Devastation to be up at the beginning of every pull.
I mean, on top of that too, Fiery Brand is not going to save you from getting fucking meleeed to death, where Fell Dev is actually going to.
That's the thing. Fell Dev is so much strong because meta makes you actually tanky, but in a Mythic Keystone, Fiery Brand and Demon Spikes up, you still need a lot of healing.
Yeah, I mean, even if you had
only meta where you're you don't need healing.
Even if you had Firebrand spread to all targets, that, it's still not going to fucking save you from getting meleeed to death.
It'll help if the mobs aren't hitting hard, but if there's any mobs that's hitting hard, it's gotta be meta or a lot of healing or kiting.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, Vengeance saw some slight damage going down, but honestly, the survivability I think that for high level content has gone up, which is bullet dodged, I guess, for the spec. The damage going down I think was pretty reasonable for sure. Warriors also got changed in the tank department in a way that's less likely to impact Mythic Plus. Although, actually, Warriors got a lot of changes. The specific change I'm talking about, though, is the banner change, which is the Covenant ability, the Necrolord Covenant ability that I think is definitely potentially something of interest for Raid. And Tettles, you actually found this spreadsheet created by a guy called Max.
Max from BDGG.
Max from BDGG, okay.
Sarah Line, Max. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That also inspired by Word Up's. I remember Word Up had the Wind Fury Totem version of this spreadsheet, but this is a beautiful looking spreadsheet. We'll have a link to it in the description stuff as well. That has not only the 5-minute sim, who's going to get the most benefit from a banner, which the answer is Moonkin, Fire Mage, and Athlock. are the three top ones, but also in the opener with Bloodlust, who's getting the most value? And the answer here is is those specs as well, but also Shadow, also Unholy, also Venthyr, also Arms, all getting up there as well. So there's a lot of good information here, and this is a pretty sizable percentage gain in DPS for specs, right? Like this is if you can hit 2 Moonkins there, you're providing those 2 Moonkins with 3.5% buff each. That's almost like Chaos Brand, except it's on 2 players instead of 30 or 20. So big value, extreme value.
I can't wait to have to walk into fucking Melee to get bannered. Dude, can you imagine just next season you just feed your fucking Moonkins Night Fae Priest abilities to get their Celestial alignment down to 2 minutes, and then you drop the fucking Warrior banner on them so they have CA Convoke every 2 minutes. That would be so stupid for a couple of fights. Like I don't even know how that would be a thing.
It seems likely to me that will be good, because the thing about Power Infusion and Conqueror's Banner and Fey Guardians is that they are all multiplicative with each other.
Yes.
So you are going to want to stack those on the same player, because each one will then increase the power of the others as well. And so, yeah, something like 2 Moonkins, 2 Night Fae Priests, 1 Protection Warrior, just providing that support squad for the Boomkins, right, is something that I could absolutely see being good. One problem with that, one complication with that strategy for Raid is
Fire Mage.
Well, it's that Windwalker got a serious nerf this patch. And the fact that Windwalker's got like bug fixes and nerfs, bug fixes that effectively represent a big nerf for the very top level players of the spec that were making the most use of the different ways the spec works. And so if that brings Windwalker to a point where you're not going to necessarily want to bring it, then you need the Brewmaster for the Monk buff. And if you still also want the Vengeance, then maybe you don't have the spot for the Prot Warrior.
What's funny?
So it's very interesting, but like if you're like an Arms Warrior or a Boomkin or whatever, all of these different things are conditional on like what happens to Windwalker, right? What happens to Windwalker?
The funny thing is,
Vengeance? What happens to Havoc?
The Necrolord banner is actually a higher damage gain in total whenever you're actually funneling it to classes that can make the most out of it, which is like super fucking troll. Like to see that in theory that one is your best covenant, but like in practice is probably not.
For arms, you talking like for DPS warriors?
For DPS warriors, it's in theory their best, but like if they ever had to like fucking get out of melee too to drop the goddamn.
Yes. So more damage is definitely good, and there would certainly be some fights where that's worth doing, but yeah, like you said, it's like more likely to go wrong. You're more likely to not get the full value on some pulls. And whereas by contrast, Condemn is actually better than it looks damage wise, because it does do front or backload damage, right? It has that 35 to 0% increase in damage, which is the damage most important.
Yeah, when it's coming is the most important, yeah.
So my suspicion is that you'll still play Venthyr DPS Warriors, but maybe not. I mean, maybe not. Maybe the Operation Turbo Moonkin, Operation Death Star.
I don't even know if I want to play that. Like the first time I would do that, it'd be sick. This literally like doing it pull over pull. I think I'd just fucking become numb and just be like, this sucks ass.
Now for Mythic Plus Warriors, there's been a set of changes regarding like their legendaries and their block up time and big damage buffs, 10% across the board, and then another 10% to Thunderclap.
Anymore.
Yeah, the reprisal legendary is the shield block legendary, where you get 4 seconds of shield block every time you charge or intervene another player. And that brings up shield block uptime from like 40% to 80%, which is humongous. And that's not even counting the bolster talent, which gives you shield block for the entire duration of Last Stand. So now a warrior can effectively have like 100% uptime of shield block, which is the most powerful physical damage reduction in the game.
And Mythic Plus, good.
Their DPS damage is like super low still though. Like even with the Thunderclap buff, I think they need like a bigger damage buff, because like right now, aren't they really struggling to hold threat? Like them in like Blood DK, I think, right?
It's tough as well, because if you're playing the banner because it's the highest theoretical damage for your group, it does not help you with your threat issues. In fact, it does the exact opposite of that. So it is certainly a challenge. They do have a commanding shout though, or whatever, challenging shout, Aerie Ton. So that is
4-minute CD.
That goes a long way though, having that for the pulls where your combustion and CA are used or whatever. I don't know. I think there's potential for Protection Warrior to make some moves in this metagame. It's tough though,
I
because
don't think the
Vengeance
damage
just
is that bad.
so good, and Chaos Brand is just so nuts. Like I don't know, the fact that if you were looking at this Conqueror's Banner thing, right, and you're like seeing these high numbers in blue being like 3.6, 3.3, and then Chaos Brand just exists and is just like everybody gets it without it being a Covenant choice, just by having the Demon Hunter in your group without needing to time it properly and everything is I feel like that should help illustrate just how much value you're getting out of that. Okay, in addition to those changes, we talked a little bit about the Windwalker nerf, which it's tough to exactly explain, but basically they fixed a ton of bugs around it.
After playing it last night in Raid, you only lose damage on AoE outside of your CDs. Like in your CDs, it's basically the same. You just have to play a little bit different. You got to fixate your clones after you get stacks. But outside of your cooldowns, you can't maintain high stacks, so you don't do as much AoE damage. So that's about it. Honestly, single target's just fine on Monk. Monk's not dead. It's just a little bit worse in AoE.
Okay. That's good news for. Although it was a spec that really did excel off of its AoE in particular. I mean, it looked broken. The AoE that it was able to put out before, though. So at least the Raid AoE.
True.
The Mythic Plus side of things, we're talking now about a target cap melee spec, and that just has a bunch of inherent ceilings placed on how good the spec can be.
I mean, I do think this is problematic for melee. I think you're just going to end up running with the changes today. If you had to run prog back, you'd run 5 fucking unholy DKs and 1 DPS warrior, right, or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean maybe with the new war banner thing. And then mages,
or maybe not even the DPS warrior,
were a buffed spec on this list. Fire mages. Which is their legendaries. So in this patch, there were balance changes to legendaries where Blizzard took a look at the less well-performing legendaries, buffed them up a little bit. And one of those was this legendary called Disciplinary Command for mages. And so the only change that mage really got was this buffed Disciplinary Command, and it turns out it made it their best in slot legendary. And so they are now doing more damage. Fire mages.
Mage got buffed. Mage is the hero class.
Yes, Mage is the new hero class, for sure. We did see some buffs to specs like Havoc. Havoc did get quite a bit of change. There's also a lot of Covenant reworks, a lot of Necrolord. I mean, Necrolord across the board, we saw buffs. Hunter got nerfed. Hunter got the biggest single nerf in this patch was to Hunter, which was this bug fix between their Wild Spirits and their Legendary that ended up being something like a 5% nerf, right? 5 to 7%. Which is substantial. It's a very substantial.
I think it was every time they aim shot with the Serpent Stalker legendary on, it would proc Wild Spirits twice. I think that's what it was doing. So it was just a ton of Wild Spirits extra damage, and now that's fixed.
Yeah, Moofsy, renowned hunter, tweeted out that they also made Wild Spirits show up now permanently as long as it's up for the rest of your group to see, which a lot of players were concerned at the start of the expansion that Wild Spirits was such an impactful cooldown that you couldn't see as the tank, right? And so you didn't know where to stand at it. And so now they've made it a non-impactful cooldown that you can see, which, yeah, I guess it's better, but...
they should just make Ashen Hollow visible permanently, too.
Well, Ashen Hollow, I mean, it's 30 seconds. That is a long time. I do think, some way of indicating where the Ashen Hallow is would be good, though. Not at its full intensity, though. Ashen Hallow and Fire Mage being notably absent from, the nerf list. It does seem a little bit strange to me, especially because it's not like they're bad in Raid, either. Fire Mage is maybe a little bit of a tough one to nerf for Raid, because they're not sick, but they're not bad. They were the best Mage spec.
Dude, I don't even know what they would just hit on Mage. For me, because the most egregious part of Mage is the combustion CD reduction. It's fucking absurd.
Well, I think that one way you could attack the spec could be the Flame Strike Fire Patch, side of things.
I mean, but the biggest issue is definitely combustion cooldown. It's not even
yeah, I don't know.
The uncapped AoE is fine if literally combustion is 2 minute CD.
I think that the that part of the playstyle is fun and skill testing for Mage for Fire. I don't know what the way to attack it would be, but I do think
skill testing is fireballing every fucking global.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. All I remember is when I played Fire Mage, I was very bad at it.
Do you guys
It must
think
make it a
that-
really high skill spec.
Do you guys think that they are going to target cap the rest of the classes eventually, like Fire Mage? Let's say this. Do you think they're going to cap Fire Mage's Flame Patch or Flame Strike eventually?
I don't know how they, because their whole thing with the target cap is that, hey, we're doing this to show that to split up specs into different niches, right? And so like these caster specs, it's intended that they are uncapped. And that you could hit more targets with stuff like Blizzard and Flame Strike than you can.
But they capped Ignite.
Yeah, they did cap Ignite spreading. I don't know. I mean, like I think that they
Mage is capped except for Flame Strike.
Well, yeah. It turns out there's a big difference between capped and then capped except for one ability that does a lot of damage. Those are two very different states to be in.
Yeah, I think it's still a little bit too much over any other class, and I think they're gonna do something about it eventually. But I feel like target cap's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. I think they're gonna overdo it and then finally realize, okay, let's uncap some stuff finally.
Yeah,
that's funny.
My guess is it might be like a next expansion thing before we're out of this target capping hell.
Yeah, I think that Mage actually may catch a target cap on their shit on 9-1. That would actually not surprise me if Fire caught like a target cap.
I mean, they could just do a 8 target cap on Flame Strike or whatever. Either
as for the rest of the shit, I what else is uncapped? It's like AF and Moonkin.
Starfall.
Yeah,
Starfall. Yeah,
but
Starfall's next on the radar after Flame Strike, I think.
I don't even think Starfall. Them capping Starfall would be so weird too because it's like not burst damage. I think the biggest issue with Fire is that's like instant damage, right? And Starfall's like so fucking slow. But maybe they'll see that as egregious too. It's hard to say.
It's just always the stuff that gets nerfed or buffed is usually what's right in front of them, right? And so Flame Strike
enhancement.
Are they uncapped? Yeah,
yeah. Yes, they are uncapped. They actually
do.
They do mega fucking damn too on AoE.
Wait, really? I don't think I've ever seen one.
And Ret with the Ret legendary, right? Like the Ret themselves are capped, but their legendary thing is not, right?
Yeah. But enhance is actually good at AoE. So is Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter is also uncapped.
Yeah, Survival is actually.
Feral has some capped, but some not capped. It's just the abilities don't do any damage. But if they did, they would do damage to a lot of targets. What do you guys think that this might do to MDI metagame as a result of all the changes? We already saw a lot of the Shadow Priest Holy Paladin making it so, for those who haven't been following MDI, last weekend we started seeing Shadow Priest Holy Paladin instead of Discipline Priest in most, or not most, but in 3 of the 8 dungeons, 3 or 4. That became a strategy that was dominating. And do you think that will perhaps be more? We'll see even more of that shift, especially because there's now the Shadow Priest DPS, like that Windwalker DPS slot is kind of out. Probably the Hunter DPS slot's kind of out, so there's more room for specs like Shadow to make their way into the top 3 DPS.
They're gonna slot in the enhance since they're bringing the Holy Paladin. They're not already committing. They're not running the 5 Night Fae, so they may as well just fucking shift in. Night Elf. They may as well just shift in that enhancement right there.
Or Survival Hunter. I mean, Survival Hunter could actually just fit where the MM used to be.
Can you imagine if they start playing fucking Enhance in the MDI? It wouldn't surprise me. Enhance actually does good fucking AoE. Their single target's pretty bad, but they do good fucking AoE. I don't know. It'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, my suspicion is that the default comp is going to be like Vengeance, Fire, Shadow, Holy Paladin, and then my question mark is that last slot. Like, are we talking like Balanced Druid? What is going in that last DPS slot? I don't know.
I think he's sent back in the MM or the
sent back in the MM even post nerf.
I think the MM and the Windwalker stay post nerf. I think it's just like how they play the dungeons. I think is like still superior to other stuff. I do also think that there's room for flexibility, but I think that it's easy to get stagnant in a specific meta and like not want to really have to fucking change up everything, especially for the last cup.
I would actually be surprised to see Windwalkers. I think they're going to do a lot less damage in AoE.
Yeah, me
and
too.
Dungeons especially.
I think Windwalkers are going to be out. I think Hunters are going to be out as well, unless that they make their way back in by not having anybody that can really challenge that slot. But I think that last slot in the group is extremely open right now, and I bet different teams are going to come up with different answers for it.
Time trial time's actually not looking too bad.
Well, the time trials were run on 9.0 as well.
Yeah. I'm just looking at their times. I was like the 1st to 8th is like 15 minutes, which is like not that bad. We've seen like fucking 25 minutes before, and it's just like, oh god.
Yeah, the level of competition in this season of the MDI between like seeds 1 through 6 or even 1 through 7 each cup have been pretty high. The 8th seed usually has been more of a long shot, more of a dark horse contender.
I mean, dude, they played Shadow, Holy Pally, and DOS. I guess it was DOS Halls and Spires.
And Spires as well. Interesting.
I don't know. It'll be interesting
again,
to see.
These are all last patch comps, right? Last patch dungeons. So I don't think we can glean too much from the time trial. Like I bet there will be swaps between then and now and the cup.
Probably.
In addition to the class changes, there have been actually a lot of dungeon changes, several of which were undocumented. One was documented, which was Sanguine Depth's lanterns getting moved around. That's pretty notable. They also buffed the Venthier ability in Sanguine Depths. They changed it in a kind of a slight nerf way in Halls of Atonement. They buffed the Necrolord ability in Theater, and they sort of tangentially buffed it in Plaguefall by making it easier to activate. And they removed the rogue from the first boss of Theater Pain. Just that rogue that would come and stun you.
Zero the underhanded.
Entirely vanished from the game, as is appropriate for rogues to do.
That's so funny that they just removed it.
Yeah,
that was such a weird mechanic. If you're all kind of in melee, any AoE that would hit it would just make it not ever appear and delete the mechanic from the fight. Or it could just wipe the group by slaying the healer in Narnia, and then nobody was able to get her.
You remember the Temple of Sethralist snakes that would that copped like a 200% damage nerf randomly? You just sat there, you look at them like, what the fuck is this nerf? This feels very similar to that. You're just like, what the fuck?
Well, I think that this mechanic in particular is one of the ones that's most frustrating for players in like Pug content, because it is one of those mechanics that they have absolutely no agency over when it happens to them, right? Like, you are entirely at the mercy of the other 4 players in your group to save you when this thing happens, right? It's not like, oh, somebody could have got that kick, or somebody should have done something. It could have been me, and like I can't get all the kicks, but like I could have done something about it. It's just like, oh, you're stunned. I hope you have somebody else in your group helping you, or you put on your PvP trinket for this dungeon,
or you're a hunter and put a freezing trap beneath your feet.
Yeah,
that's an epic choice.
Big move. That is actually that was. I remember that being the play against the snakes as well.
Did you guys hear that they put a Plague Rock back in Plaguefall? I think this was actually my mistake. I think they didn't merge the branches on the patches from last time around, and they just forgot to delete the Plague Rocks.
Oh no!
For real?
What the hell?
So I think the Plague Rocks are back in Plaguefall, unless I'm wrong. I just heard that.
Like today. in the beginning with the bad ones.
Yeah, with the Mushroom Boys.
All right, that mushroom pack is literally off limits. Do not fucking pull that. You have to now invisibility potion.
I remember when they deleted a Plague Rock from the start of the dungeon, but it was the wrong one. It like wasn't the one that was causing everybody problems, and so they ended up deleting that one as well.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, the flying one.
Yeah.
That one was fucking annoying because it would just like combat you perma too.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was also a problem. It was not one that I'd had problems with. So in addition to those documented changes, of which those will be impactful on the MDI, the Lantern and Sanguine Depths one also definitely potentially might matter for pathing in that dungeon. They've removed all of the pre-dungeon shenanigans, which maybe your first time hearing about this, but there were ways that you could like pre-set up buffs, especially Necrotic Wake and Sanguine Depths, and bring them into a dungeon. Those have been removed, which is good. Missatuna Scythe, this is a big one. You can't pull through the wall anymore. The window is closed.
That was really fucking troll.
It's not clear to me to what extent there's like no way to pull anything at all anymore in the maze, or if it's just like they band-aided a couple specific ones. Because in the MDI in particular, that was a pretty crucial part of the strategy, right? Was there were several now spots in the maze where teams were pulling, all of the nearby rooms in for big count. So yeah, I'm curious about how they approach this. I mean, it seems to me like you could just make mobs not spawn until you walk into their room. But
somebody in chat says you can still pull double frog.
Interesting.
Oh, never mind. So can do double frog.
So yeah, it sounds like it was more in the vein of the Band-Aid fix rather than the addressing the root of the problem.
Wait, they fixed the good pull and not the bad pull? Wait.
So I
fight 2 mobs.
I hate that fighting 2 mobs by itself bit. I loved that you could add 4 more mobs to that and make it less of a boring pull. And it's so bad to just
Yeah, that was
by
actually really
itself.
nice. 6 target pull right after a boss where everyone has, or at least most people usually have CDs. It's really nice.
Yeah, it depended a little bit on exactly what key level you were at. 'Cause sometimes you burn all your cooldowns to try and one phase the boss or whatever, but other
Yeah,
times
true.
it not. It's just breakpoints. Plaguefall, the mirror image strategy on the third boss, has been broken. That doesn't work anymore. You can't just break out all the ads with mirror image anymore, which good change as far as I'm concerned.
That's fair.
Apparently, still works in normal, but not mythic.
That's so weird.
Oh, I know why that's the case too. Okay, so the normal Plague Ball is actually the mythic Plague Fall version from like early beta. It just was never updated.
Yeah, because
So that's, I think it keeps all the old bugs and all that.
the tentacles are still, there's still only the 2, right? There's not like the bunch of extra ones that stop you from going around the sides. I remembered running into those first time and doing the dungeon on like a mythic. There's a bunch of new tentacles.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Plague Fall. It's just like avoiding the updates they put in for patches or something, because there's just all kinds of weird stuff going on there.
And then they fixed the spears on Davos in Spires of Ascension, which is a welcome change as far as I'm concerned. That's that was, I mean, it was kind of cool. It was a cool mechanic, but it was also very tough to explain.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure to what extent they fixed the spears. I'm not sure if they completely removed the achievement spears on M+, or if they fixed them to not spawn the fucking orbs. I don't know to what extent that got
Interesting.
fixed.
Yeah, all of these changes are potentially in that space of like, depending on how they fixed it, they might not have fixed it as well. Because like,
yeah,
you know, it's like, oh, maybe you could still mirror image like at the perfect time and it'll break the ads out. Maybe you can still use the spears at a different time and still get the effect, right?
Okay. Apparently Growl went up there earlier and the spears just weren't there.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is
that might actually do it.
I mean,
do you guys remember the second boss in Eltharian's Lair from Legion? They tried to fix the recordings from identifying the totems, and they tried to fix it like 9 times, and people found a way to break it every single time.
I remember on that boss you could taunt right before he went into the totem as well, and like he wouldn't go into phase.
That was one of the ways.
They kept like nerfing that so that it got to like a 2-frame window to do it, but they never got it to 0.
Well, yeah, no, they got it to a 2-frame window, and you got around that by fucking juggling a warlock pet into a tree taunt, and you can still get it.
Yeah,
that boss was 5.5 minutes if you didn't get the taunt, and if you got the taunt the first round, that boss was like 2:30 or something. So that was one of the tightest dungeons, and that was one of the biggest time gains that you could have possibly have gotten to. It was so fucking troll.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is that often they will not actually fix the base underlying problem, and they'll just like fix the most easily reproduced way to make it happen, and then you'll have to learn a new way that is potentially a lot harder to make a similar thing happen. But it sounds like the solution of just removing the spears from Mythic Plus entirely is the actual way to fix the base problem on Davos. So kudos if that's the
that's good. That's good. They did that.
Juggling ranged warlock pet taunt was still just the funniest fucking thing.
Us unpaid Q&A testers will find a way eventually.
And then finally, the well, I mean, you do get paid if you discover it for MDI. That's
true.
The Dealer's Iexa strat, where you would pre-click the portal, has also been scuffed, where you'll now like fall out of the portal when your cast finishes and just like plonk land on the ground. Not entirely clear to me how, like, what all the specifics of this are, but my advice to people is just you can cast your mount during that channel, so just cast your mount instead, and then go click on the portal.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Or maybe you have to start the mount before the cast starts, but you can do both at the same time. It's weird. So that is I think the most optimal way to spend your time. I think so. Okay. I actually maybe the DOS I did was right before the patch, not right after. So maybe I could be lying. But definitely the pre-clicking the portal strat is don't expect that to work the way it used to. I don't know the full specifics of when exactly you can do what and have it work on that boss. Very minor stuff, but definitely jarring. I've heard reports of people falling out of the sky, which is not what you want. All right, that is the set of changes from the patch as far as we could see. Is there anything that I missed to cover here?
No, that was just the shifting meta stuff. I think we're good.
All right. Let us do some thanking of the patrons, and then we will do our Q&A segment. So the wonderful patrons include Paul of US Proudmore, Sports Bra Hot Venthier GF of US Tichondrius, Riley, Mists a scam dungeon full of scam mechanics and scam bosses, Awkward Stone Mall, Best 201 Disc Priest, and new Hero of the Horse. I wonder if that's supposed to be Hero of the Horde.
It is. I think it's a running joke in the Titanforge community, though.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it was Hero of the he said something to me last week about horse, and I just corrected it to horde. Wait, maybe I should have left it as horse.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was a fucking meme.
That's a good meme. Ja, Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, the Marsh Hare, Regulus, Never Nude, Chewy, Dratnos, aka Daddy role-playing as the next Ouroboros savior. I wish I was good at acronyms.
Thanks, Daddy.
ZibXX. Salty Senny, Necros, Rebdil, Nevuk, Sinmora, Eevee, oh god, please buff Frosty K and PvE. Stevenson, love the Constantinople bit. Take Light of the Protector and Frenzied Regen off of GCD. Thank you. I spent an embarrassing amount of time planning and practicing that.
that was ridiculous when you did it. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
No Trick, I scheduled a Tettle's Flame, Sire Dematicus, Mir, Dimat, Syncope the Sleep Deprived. Choke Me Daddy weak auras are required for tenacity. So you guys seen this weak aura? If you search it on the Wago, it's like when the blood price is casting, it'll slash say choke me or like harder or something. I don't know. When you're like being lifted up in the air.
Oh god,
it's spreading. So at least one person in my guild has it. And my suspicion is
is it like the nom weak aura?
Well, so it triggers when the blood price is lifting you up in the air rather than. But yeah, it's the same sort of idea. Maybe I'm a monk main now. Hanny is going to pump in Shadowlands. Nyx, Flick, Foden, quote unquote, man of his word routes are better than Dratnos routes. Gallic, Drusiv, Chewy, Dratnos routes Abyss. Dude, there's a strong battle going on about the quality of my routes here. Dratnos' Basement Escapee, Monka W, M Sanity, Canyon and Moonsonara of Emerald Dream Division 7, and Area 52 Scraw. Xena, Shadowcatra is the worst warlock on Zul'jin US. I assume we haven't gotten any angry letters from Shadowcatra about this being
nope, I haven't got anything yet.
So it seems like it's two friends. Love to see that. Red Color, Some Zero of Tichondrius, youtube.com/workbringer, and Morty died 6 times to mechanics last week. That is
Rip Morty.
Immortalized now forever in our segment. Thanks all the patrons. Let us move on to Q&A. Our first question comes from Contagion in Discord, who asks, can we get your opinion on the change to the keystone level you get from the vault? I've been thinking about it, and the only group of players I can think that benefits would be boosting communities. So there's actually quite a bit of context to this, which Blizzard announced last week that along with the original patch notes to 905, that you would no longer get your keystone based on your best so far this season, and it would instead go back to the BFA model of last week -1, or if you didn't do a key, or the week before that -2, or the week before that -3, whatever of those formula would be highest, basically. And people were pretty unhappy about that because a lot of people had liked the system of, you just keep getting 15s every week,
season.
And you didn't have to, do 2 keys per week or go find somebody else's key or do a higher key and then slide down slowly and then find a higher key again and slide down slowly, because that was kind of the play pattern that was encouraged by the BFA system. And so there was outcry about it, and then Blizzard updated before patch 9.0.5 came out with a solution that is now, if you time the key, you get the same level, and if you deplete it, it's -1. So now if you just time a 15 every week, you keep getting 15s, but if you deplete them, you'll get a 14 the next week, which, to me...
I think that's really good.
To me, this is a reasonable change, and the question here comes from, this was a very common complaint I saw about this, is like, why are they changing something that works? Who asked for this type of stuff? But I think that there was a set of players that, if you got boosted through a 15 or whatever, boosted through a 19, and you're getting 18 keys in your box each week, and your character is you only are capable of doing 6s normally or 5s or whatever, that's a lot of lowering of keys to do. And so I think it's reasonable that 1 high key completion there were players who it was like a jarring experience to be locked at getting the high level key every week. Now, the problem comes about from how annoying it is to lower a key, especially if you need to lower it more than 10 levels. It's impossible to do it without planning ahead by more than an hour. So that is another way to attack this. But I do think that is something that a lot of people don't consider is thinking about that, those sort like whether there are more casual players who could perhaps have pushed up more seriously in 1 week with like a group, and then they're like pugging most weeks and they're getting these keys out of their box that are several levels higher than what they can do. And even if it's at that level they can do, they don't have that like pushing up key experience, or they just kind of are in this spot where they're kind of locked into the cycle of weekly no levering their key every week, which I'm sympathetic to wanting to fix that. So I think that the compromise they've come out with here is a great middle ground, where basically, most players are now going to be in a spot where they're still going to be fine. It is still a little bit worse for a couple sets of players. If you are if you were somebody who only played every other week, every couple weeks or whatever, it was nice to just kind of be locked to getting a nice high key that you could keep using. Definitely. That was something that was cool for some players. But on the other hand, I don't necessarily have a problem with saying, hey, if you want to keep your key high, you do keys, right? Also for like push groups, one nice thing about this system was that like you do a 26 one fortified week, and then you don't have to like weekly no lever the week before next push week to try and set yourself up with good keys.
Yeah,
going into that week. But those are very small subsets of players, and my guess is most people like that are going to be totally fine. And I think that the compromise they've landed on here is a really good one. That, basically does everything that one could. Like, I think that almost any type of player should be totally fine with this setup here.
I think it's definitely a better setup than what we've had in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's slightly worse than what we had recently.
I think it is worse. Like, it's worse for a lot of sets of a lot of players. It's slightly worse for, but. I do think it is better for some players as well. That I think it also. I mean, I appreciate the incentivizing of timing keys as well. I think this is a nice way to do that without it being too punishing to like. Because there's always this struggle with the game design between like how much do you want to incentivize the key to be timed versus how much do you want to not punish and like not cause people to leave when it's clear the key is depleted. And I think that this solution actually lands pretty well. In terms of being a way that I think is healthy to increase the value of timing your key. Because I think there are a lot of ways you can do it that are pretty unhealthy out there as well. All right. Next question comes from Xanthos in Discord, who asks...
This is a long one.
Yeah. Now that Hall of Fame is closed for both factions, before the launch of Shadowlands, we were worried that people were going to feel forced into having multiple of the same class to feel optimal in whatever content they were pushing at the moment. How do we feel this worked out? Was this a community perception or worry that never became a thing or an issue? Will these issues arise again in future tiers as balance changes occur? And how do we think Covenants have worked out so far compared to other systems WoW has had in the last couple expansions? Many parts to this question.
I'll field this first.
Okay.
So I'll field this first. I think that the reason that you don't see people having multiple characters of the same class is because of the difficulty to gear. Right now, even if you're a suboptimal Covenant, how hard it is to actually gear up a full character from scratch is like impossibly hard, to the point where sure, there may be a better Covenant specifically, but you would be better off just swapping Covenants on your main character than having like a secondary character, to the point where we even had stuff like our Shadow Priest played Necrolord for a lot of prog, swapped to Night Fae for Siren and Athras, right? I played Kyrian for some of prog and swapped the Night Fae, right? I wasn't going to make a second Moonkin, and he wasn't going to make a second Shadow Priest and stuff like that. And our Paladin swapped from Kyrian to Venthyr, and it's like stuff like that. It's easier to just completely swap your Covenant for that specific situation that you've determined is the most important at the time, at least, and then worry about stuff like gear later because you already have the gear, right?
Yeah. So like I've always been critical of the system, but for the record, I've always said that people outside of the very top levels it was always going to be more miserable to have multiple of the same class than to do
Yes.
whatever with the Covenant system. Which isn't that isn't an argument in favor of a Covenant system being restrictive. It's just an argument that like having multiple of the same class, trying to gear multiple of the same class, is incredibly bad. That's a level of misery that almost nobody is willing to tolerate in a game they play for fun. So I think it makes sense that we haven't seen the fears that people had about that happening really be realized. There's a little bit of that happening in the very top level guilds, but even then, most people are just in a position where they'll just re-covenant their character. Because the thing is that most really top level players, you just have one thing that you're doing at a time, right? Like your character is either raiding is your top priority or you're done with the raid. And so that's like most players in like World Hall of Fame guilds, for instance, all of our characters were best raid covenant for progression. And then as soon as progression was done, which for us is 5 to 7 weeks into patch, right? 5 weeks for my guild or something. For limit and stuff, it's 2 weeks. So for guilds like this, then for the remainder of the patch, you're free to do a Mythic Plus Covenant or a PvP Covenant. So my worries were, first of all, it still feels bad to be the worst Covenant in Raid or M+, during that time. But also for the players that aren't in a guild where they are done with progression after the first month. I feel like it's a rough spot to be in. Or if you're somebody who's trying to play, arms and protection, right? And if you're trying to play arms and protection on the same character, there is not a good Covenant answer for you that will feel good for both of those specs. It doesn't really exist. I guess maybe Necrolord now, but
Knife A, big AoE.
Yeah, but regardless, like you're always going to be like wanting to be Venthyr when you're playing arms for a lot of stuff. You're always going to want to be, Kyrian warrior for different stuff, and you can come up with some compromises. You can find a covenant that you like. There are certainly a lot of people who like identify with the covenant and have attached to it and feel great about it. And I think for those players, the covenant balance has landed in a place where they're never going to feel like they can't really compete as a result of the covenant they're playing. And to Blizzard's credit, the most egregious cases of like if you wanted to be a Necrolord DH, for instance, they've like looked at those and brought those up so that it's less bad if that's your covenant class fantasy or whatever.
But I do think that it's a lot less fun to be it's pretty unfun to be the wrong covenant for something specific.
So like this season I PvP'd up to 2400 for gear as a Kyrian demon hunter, and like
oof.
It was hard. It was kind of fun, challenging, but like if I could play Fae, I would PvP more. I'd try to go for Gladiator. But I'm not going to do it as Night Fae. Like I don't want it, and I'm not going to switch to Fae either. I'm not going to burn my Covenant swap. I'm not going to re-level all the renown. Like they've succeeded at making me not want to swap, but the answer is not me doing the content in the suboptimal stuff. The answer is just me not doing the content and playing other video games.
Do you feel like you're a Kyrian demon hunter?
No, because I'm probably going to swap next tier. If there's, I will just be whatever the best one is for the raid, and then like if I get into M+ for season or something, I'll swap over to an M+ one if there's a clear reason.
Do you think?
PvP, but again, more likely the answer is just rather than feeling suboptimal, which for me is not fun, I'll just play other games.
Do you think they accomplished their goal?
I don't think their goal was for me to not play. I don't know. Feels bad.
Their goal is like make a meaningful choice, but I don't know. I feel like they actually did accomplish their goal, but we all don't like it. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of players are looking to make swaps now, though, right? Like are looking into making covenant switches. I think the majority of people I know either have swapped or are looking at doing a swap for next patch now, which has made the choice. I mean, I bet that their goal from the start would have been that they would have wanted most players to pick one and stick with it for their character for the whole expansion, right? And I don't think, I think it's much more likely than not that I will swap my character at least once this expansion, and I think most high-end players are going to.
I think you're right. I think I'll probably swap every character.
Right, swapped already.
Yeah, I swapped literally during Heroic Week because I was like, holy fuck, I made a mistake.
Right. Which I mean, I don't know. It's tough for me, but a lot of the players that I've seen being initially pretty pro the system have maybe if they haven't yet come around to the idea being bad, have come around to like, hey, this implementation is bad. And I don't see how the implementation could have been better given their goals, because I feel like all the like micro decisions they've made around it, given their like objectives, have been really good. I feel like they've come up with a lot of good ways to keep the balancing good. I feel like they've done a lot of good stuff with like which ones they've picked to buff, and I don't think you could have asked for a better delivery of the vision, but I still am critical of the vision.
All right, hear me out. I'll do them a favor. Delete conduits, make covenants swappable, and then we go again.
Yeah.
You can even keep the soulbind system the way it is and just delete fucking conduits. I'm so down.
Watching MDI, it makes me so so sad when like the priest plays like 3 different covenants in 3 different dungeons based on like which one they want for a different thing, and I just like
that's not transmissible to live, at all.
This we can't even swap we can't even swap conduits between dungeons. There's a limitation on that.
Okay, the conduit energy part, I will never understand how that is still in the game. I have yet to hear any story of anybody having a positive experience as a result of conduit energy. But the main argument I've heard in defense of it is this hasn't affected me. So if there's something that like 99% of people are like, this hasn't affected me, and 1% of people are like, this is the worst thing to have ever happened, I feel like that's a pretty clear change. I feel like this hasn't affected me isn't a good argument for not changing system. I think that's a good argument for like, okay, well, how has it affected the people it has affected? But I don't know.
I actually, on our latest Titanforge Mimosas and Mythic Plus event this last Saturday, I played a soulbind with 2 empty conduits because I didn't have enough conduit energy. Like, that's what I literally had to do.
At the very if they want to band-aid the system again, at the very least it should just not cost energy to slot into an empty socket. Like, come on, that's wild that costs energy.
Blows my mind.
Last Q&A question, which is more of a Q&A PSA, comes from A Fields, who asks, did we mention the Invis Potion bugs as of yesterday? Which is that there are now several abilities that will break Invis Pot. Among them, Ghost Wolf, I think if you have Spirit Wolf talented. Haramir, which is the Soulbind for Necrolords. And Fleshcraft in some way. I don't know the specifics of it, but basically there are effects that will like tick as healing on you that will break your Invis Pot, right?
Pretty much.
Oh, interesting.
And it's de-stealthing people randomly whenever it ticks on you, and it's just like really annoying.
Yeah.
So it must be what Stagger was doing for a long time, where it just briefly takes you out of stealth and then you go back into stealth. But Invispots would just end entirely in that case.
Apparently, the file trinket, the ooze stack.
I heard about that. Yeah. I saw a tweet from like Undead about it, I think, or Yoda or some. Either Undead or Yoda. It's always one of them that is the first with the scoop on whatever the new bug trinket is.
The new bug shit.
Yeah. So just be careful if you're invis potting. You know, be ready for your invis pot skips to fail, and then try and identify which of those things it was, and be aware that that's what appears to be causing it, is various like healing or damage tick effects that are breaking out that aura. Good call, A Fields. Thanks for letting us know.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was good call.
All right, that's our Q&A segment for the week, and that is our show for the week. We will be back on Saturday, not Saturday the 13th, which is in 3 days, but Saturday the 20th for our next live show here on TTV Tettles. It will also be earlier than these shows have been on Wednesdays, and then we will be going back to Sundays for the podcast, like for the YouTube and iTunes and stuff versions of the show as well. So it'll be a little bit of a longer delay before our next show, and then we'll be back to the weekend cadence as the MDI will be over of the regular season at least. So thanks for watching, and see you then.
Peace.